The artist rendering shows you what our next generation of hydroplane will be. The boat that you are holding represents a 7-liter hydroplane. Also, we are building Grand Prix very similar to this. As a matter of fact, there's a Grand Prix in New Zealand and one in Australia, and there is an Unlimited already built in Australia, very much like this drawing. That will be the next generation. The only difference between the picture you see and an Unlimited is the Unlimited will have 2 vertical stabilizers, no horizontal, but 2 verticals, and they will be inclined at a 25-degree angle, and they will not be out at the tip of the non-trip as we're used to seeing. They will come out of the center body, and the turbine exhaust pipe will run between the 2 verticals. We are also building the center body as it is shown in the picture, as though it were an airplane fuselage, kind of like we see right here. And this will take about a month's work out of a normal Unlimited building program, whereby the entire driver's cockpit, canopy, protection gear is all molded in one operation. The door opens quite nicely. It's hinged along the side with a very large stainless piano hinge. The upper protection part of this door is made of carbon fiber and honeycomb. When it's down, there are only 2 latches that are required to hold it in place, and it becomes a permanent part of the body. This does away with F-16 canopies, which I was the one to get them, so I can be the one to do away with them. We're going to build our own polycarbonate windows and front canopy section. And the entire boat will be molded. The only aluminum or metal in the boat will be the spars and the hardware. And this will represent a step forward in technology, in the sense that up until now we have thought that we were doing well when we use things like aluminum honeycomb in our construction, but composite construction in molded, vacuum bag, oven cured material is far in advance to anything we've done so far. Got up close to the circus that they ran at the first of the season last year, but we provided the new sponsons for that particular boat. Plus, we provided the drawings and the detail in which we could round all those surfaces, and where the deck normally meets the non-trip of a hull, there's a sharp edge. Where the bow comes out to the front, there's a sharp point. Sharp, pointy objects at subsonic speeds are very detrimental. They're very draggy. The air doesn't know quite where to go. For instance, in the hydroplanes where we used to bring the bow out to a sharp point, as the air approached the tip of that point, or let's put it in proper perspective, the point of the boat is coming into the air, but to understand the principle, the air is approaching the point. As it came to that point, part of the air then went this way, and part of it went off this way. Now you can see that at 200 miles an hour there could be a pretty substantial volume of air getting upset. This upset air is now approaching the ram wing of the hull, and this is not a good idea, to put it mildly. Secondly, where we had a sharp surface here, where the non-trip came up and met the deck in a very sharp edge, if you'll recall last year when the Pringles, Jiff Presents Mr. Pringles, rolled upside down at Pasco, all that really happened there at a relatively low rate of speed is that when he got the boat in the corner, the left sponson fell into a horrendous hole created by a roller. The right sponson rolled up. As the right sponson rolled up, it presented this sharp edge that we're talking about to the air. And the air could no longer follow over the deck. So it parted and did this. And as soon as it did that, the whole right deck became a big vacuum cleaner, and it sucked the boat right on over to the side. By making this a radius that continues right on around, the air flow will be able to follow over the surface a lot longer and not become out of the hat. The boat that we're subsequently going to build, we'll change the model, and it'll have all the corner radii just like the big ones do on the overall dimension, but the tunnel width will still be 90 inches as they have been in the past. I believe that ultimately we will go to even wider tunnels but far less wing area. The reason hydroplanes flip presently is that they're too lightly loaded in the wing area. For instance, to put it into perspective, Cessna 172 carries about 17 pounds per square foot of wing area. So for every square foot of wing, you can put 17 pounds of weight on it and it'll lift it. Boeing 747 in that same square foot carries 100 pounds. In other words, the coefficient of lift of the 747 is considerably greater than the Piper Cub or the 172. What that means is that when the 172 gets into a 30-knot bumpy day or 50-knot bumpy day, it's virtually out of control. It's so hard to fly, and every little gust of wind, and it flies up, flies down, dives, does all kinds of things, because it's so lightly loaded that it takes very little to upset it. Whereas a 747 that same day will fly right through it and you wouldn't even feel it. Same thing with a hydroplane. We have built boats with great big wing surfaces in them. When my dad built boats, the Slow-Mo 5 is right next door, the bow was not only filled in, it even came out past the end of the sponsons to a long point. If the boat was 28 or 29 feet long, it had virtually a 29-foot wing section in the middle. Those wing sections were so lightly loaded that they would fly over at a moment's notice. And you say, well, I don't remember too many of the old boats flying over. Well, not really. Slow-Mo 5 did, of course. But the reason was that in those days, they carried the center of gravity forward clear up to the end of the sponson. But they didn't go fast either, compared to today. Slow-Mo 5 probably went 180, 90 miles an hour in various times during its career. But in an actual race, Slow-Mo 5 would maybe do 175 at the end of a very long straightaway, but come off the exit pin of the turn at 90. Today, Miss Budweiser or Circus or any of the newer boats would see over 200 on a 2-mile course and perhaps come off the exit pin at 160. The reason, of course, is too long. What I'm getting toward is the wing loading. And wing loading is one of the primary causes of boats flying over. They're not heavily loaded. So even though we might go to a wider tunnel, we'll go to a much smaller ram wing area, like you saw in the photo. And the concept there will be to load the wing very heavily, and that means the wing will become dependent on its height off the ground. And if it gets a little higher, it won't fly anymore, and it'll come back down.